All right, this is Business Plans at Work book that I'm reading, Marketing Plan, Reaching the Customer. We have set the stage for your company to enter and grow in marketplace successfully. Now we will need to devise a strategy that will allow the company to reach its potential. Exhibit 6.1 highlights the major sections of the marketing plan. Let's look at each subsection in turn. So the marketing plan will have the target market strategy, the product service strategy, pricing strategy, distribution strategy, advertising and promotion, sales strategy, sales and marketing forecasts. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through each of those. Target market is every marketing plan needs guiding principles based on the knowledge gleaned from the target market analysis. Entrepreneurs need to position and the product accordingly. All the product strategies fall somewhere on a continuum stretching from the rational purchases to emotional purchases. When one buys a new car, the rational purchase might be a low-cost, reliable car, such as the Ford Aspire. However, there's an emotional element as well. You want the car to be an extension of your personality. Thus, based on your economic means and self-perception, you buy a 1965 Ford Mustang convertible because of the emotional benefits it confers. Within every product space, there is room for products at different points along the continuum. An entrepreneur needs to decide where his product fits or where he would like to position it, as this influences the other aspects of the marketing plan. So Firefly, for instance, tends toward the emotional side of the continuum. Parents and caregivers do not really need to purchase the toy, but they believe that by doing so, they will improve a child's well-being. So you have rational on one side, emotional on one side, and Firefly is closer to the emotional side of purchasing. Now, the product service strategy. Building from the target market strategy, this section of the plan describes how your product is differentiated from the competition. It's informative to look back on the competitive dimensions you described in the competitive profile matrix. What attributes are important to the customer? Are they willing to pay a premium? Will they continue to pay for that premium? One of the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs make is evaluating an opportunity as if it were static. But marketplaces change, customer values change. With cell phones in the early years, people paid huge premiums for the hardware and the minutes. As the product became more widely dispersed, price became an increasingly important attribute. Today, wireless companies give away the hardware and entice customers with great calling plans. The point is that if you had entered the market early and viewed it in a static fashion, falling prices would have caught you by surprise and potentially led to your firm's demise. As you think about your product service strategy, try to identify the attributes that have the potential to be sustainable. What will the customers value over the long run? You will have to consider other issues as well. Discuss why the customer will switch to your product and how you will retain customers so that they don't switch to your competition in the future. This section also should address how you will provide the service to the customer. What type of technical support will you provide? Will you offer warranties? What kinds of product upgrades will be available and when? It is important to detail all these efforts, as they must all be accounted for in the pricing of the product. Many times entrepreneurs underestimate the costs of these services, and this can lead to a drain on cash flow and can ultimately lead to bankruptcy. Pricing strategy. Determining how to price your product is always difficult. The two primary approaches are the cost plus approach and the market demand approach. We advise entrepreneurs to avoid cost plus pricing. It is difficult to determine your actual costs accurately, especially if this is a new venture with a limited history. New ventures consistently underestimate the true cost of developing their products. For example, how much did it really cost to write that software? The cost would include salaries and the payroll tax burdens, computers and other aspects, the overhead contribution, and so on. Since most entrepreneurs underestimate these costs, there is a tendency to underprice the product when using cost plus pricing. Another pricing strategy that gets entrepreneurs in trouble is to offer a low price so that they can penetrate the market and gain market share rapidly. The problems with a low price are that it may be difficult to raise the price later. Demand at that price may overwhelm your ability to produce the market in sufficient volume, and it may drain cash flow. or strain cash flow. Also, a low price may connote lower value versus the competition. Therefore, the better method is to canvass the market and determine an appropriate price based on what the competition is offering and how your product is positioned. If you're offering a low cost product, price below market rates. If your product is of better quality or has features superior to those of the competition, the more common case, it should be priced above the market rates. The fluid nature of a startup means that purchasing power, changing product or service components, and even the offering makes the real and total cost of a product very difficult to pin down. Distribution strategy. This section identifies how you will reach the customer. Many new ventures assume the availability and capacity of channels of distribution for a new improved product. That's almost always a mistake. One of the authors had a friend who developed chili in a jar. That entrepreneur had extensive experience in packaged foods, previously having worked for a large national food conglomerate, and then with a successful beverage startup. Although the product was of high quality, as good as making it from scratch, and much better than chili in a can, the entrepreneur found it impossible to break into the grocery store distribution channel in a significant way. The large food processors controlled all the shelf space. Even though the product was new and improved, it did not survive. It is also important to understand the cost of reaching the customer, even if you can access the distribution channels. The e-commerce boom of the late 1990s assumed that the growth in the internet usage and purchases would create new demand for pure internet companies, yet the distribution strategy for many of these firms did not make sense. Pets.com and other online pet supply firms had a strategy where the pet owner would log on, order the product from the site, and then receive delivery via UPS or the US Postal Service. In theory, this works, except that the price the market would bear for this product did not cover the exorbitant shipping costs for a 40-pound bag of dog food. It is wise to examine how the customer currently acquires the product. If your customer buys dog food at Walmart, you probably should use primarily traditional retail outlets to sell a new brand of dog food. This is not to say that entrepreneurs may not develop a multi-channel distribution strategy, but if they want to achieve maximum growth, at some point they will have to use common distribution techniques or re-educate the customer about the buying process, which can be very expensive. If you determine that Walmart is the best distribution channel, the next question is, can you access it? For a new startup in dog food, it may be difficult to get shelf space at Walmart. That may suggest an entry strategy of boutique pet stores to build brand recognition. The key here is to identify appropriate channels and then assess how costly it is to access them. Firefly is using a distribution strategy similar to that of the Spinoza Bears to enter the market. Toys are a very competitive industry, and access to large distribution channels such as Walmart and Toys R Us is virtually impossible for a new company. These large distribution channels demand steep discounts, guaranteed sales, and large volumes. Thus, Firefly is trying to build relationships with hospitals, philanthropic organizations, and schools because these channels enable it to command a higher price. The clients of these outlets are also Firefly's likely customers. It remains to be seen whether Firefly's strategy will prove successful, but recognizing how difficult it is to tap existing channels has the company going in the right direction. Next piece of marketing is advertising and promotion. Communicating effectively with your customer requires advertising and promotion. Referring again to the dot-com boom of the late 1990s, the defunct Computer.com made a classic mistake in the attempt to build brand recognition. It blew over half the venture capital it raised on a series of expensive Super Bowl ads for the January 2000 event, $3 million of $5.8 million raised on 3 Super Bowl ads. Resource-constrained entrepreneurs need to select the appropriate strategies carefully. What avenues most effectively reach your primary target audience? If you can identify your primary target audience PTA by name, direct mail, it may be more effective. Try to utilize grassroots techniques such as public relations efforts geared toward mainstream media. Sherry Poe, the founder of Rika Shoes, a company geared towards women, appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show, touting shoes for women designed by women. The reason was overwhelming. The response was overwhelming. In fact, she was so besieged by the demand she couldn't supply enough shoes. It is important to distinguish between early stage advertising strategies and those which will emerge as the company grows. For example, one of the authors was on the founding team for Jiffy Lube. In the early days, the company used direct mail coupons to all registered vehicle owners. As the company grew nationally, it switched to radio advertisements because people listened to the radio when they were driving and were more likely to think about the need for an oil change. The key is to develop an appropriate strategy based on your primary target audience and the stage of the company development. As you developed a multi-pronged advertising and promotion strategy, create detailed schedules that show which avenues you will pursue and the associated costs. These type of schedules serve many purposes, including providing accurate cost estimates, which will help in assessing how much capital you need to raise. These schedules also build credibility in the eyes of potential investors as they show that you understand the nuances of your industry. Next, sales strategy. This section provides the backbone that supports all the parts described above. Specifically, it illustrates what kind and level of human capital you will devote to the effort. How many salespeople and how many customer support do you need? Will these people be internal to the organization or outsourced? If they're internal, will there be a designated sales force or will different members of the company serve in a sales capacity at different times? This section builds credibility if the entrepreneur demonstrates an understanding of how the business should operate. Sales and marketing forecasts. Gauging the impact of these efforts is difficult. Nonetheless, to build a compelling story, entrepreneurs need to show projections of revenues well into the future. How do you derive these numbers? There are two methods, the comparable method and the build-up method. The comparable method models sales forecast after what other companies have achieved, adjusting for the age of the company. Variances in product attributes support services such as advertising and promotion and so forth. After detailed investigation of the industry and market, entrepreneurs know that the competitive players and have a good understanding of their history. In essence, the entrepreneur monitors a number of comparable competitors and then explains why her business varies from those models. Based on the comparable method, Firefly's projected sales, see section 5.7 of the plan below, of the 23,000 units, both creatures and kits in year 1 seems very aggressive. Referring back to the competitive matrix table in Chapter 3, we see that the Folk Madness had sales of $2.2 million and Spinoza has sales of $1 million. We left out Manhattan Toys because it is much larger and carries multiple lines. That would mean that the Folks Madness has a volume of at least 22,000 units per year, assuming all units are sold at the highest price, and the Spinoza has sales of at least 5,000 units per year. Firefly is expecting to match that level almost immediately. Considering that Firefly is planning to use the same distribution strategy as Spinoza, investors should be highly skeptical of Firefly's predictions. In the build-up method, the entrepreneur identifies all the revenue sources and then estimates how much of that revenue type it can generate per day and some other small period. The build-up technique is an imprecise method for a new startup with limited operating history, but it is critically important to assess the viability of the opportunity, so important in fact that we advise entrepreneurs to use both the comparable and the build-up techniques to assess how well they converge. If the two methods are widely divergent, go back through and try to determine why. The deep knowledge you gain on your business model will help you articulate the opportunity to stakeholders as well as manage the business when it's launched. We can use the build-up method to validate Firefly's projections. The company is estimating a sale of approximately $700,000 in the first year and $4.3 million in the second year. Firefly is using a direct sale force consisting of one person in year 1 and 3 in year 2. That equates to $700,000 of sale per salesperson in year 1 and $1.4 million per salesperson in year 2. That seems high. To compare, we looked at Business Week's small business website that provides benchmark comparison. Small businesses in the durable wholesale sector average approximately $200,000 in sales per employee. It appears that Firefly is underestimating its headcount in both years. Although the year one figures are close to the benchmark, it is likely that the Firefly will be less efficient in the first year. Thus, you might expect Firefly to perform worse than the benchmark number. Year two sales per employee is 250% higher than the industry benchmark. We also can look at the benchmark company, the Vermont Teddy Bear Company, VTBC. In 2001, VTBC had sales of $37 million and employed 338 people. Many of the employees, 167 people, were in production. Considering that Firefly is outsourcing production, we'd reduce VTBC's headcount by its production employees and are left with 171 people. VTBC reports that 142 of those employees are in marketing. Once again, Firefly's projections seem overly optimistic. Even if we look at year 5, when Firefly might achieve economies of scale, its projected sales per employee are over 3 times those of VTBC. Something has to give. Either Firefly needs to hire more people over time, or it has to revise its sales downward. Firefly year 1, $700,000, year 2, $4.3 million, year 5, $24 million is their estimates. Vermont Teddy Bear is making $37 million. The number of salespeople Vermont Teddy Bear has is 142. Firefly thinks they'll have 32 only in the year 5, and only 1 person and 3 people in years 1 and 2. So we did the sales to salesperson averages, and it looks like Firefly is looking at anywhere between 700,000 to 1.4 million per person. Vermont Teddy Bear is getting $260,000 in sales per salesperson. Employees are 3, 6, 38, 171, and sales per employee is similar, a little bit more for Firefly. So that's basically a chart that's been drawn out here. I don't know if you can see, but that's what I just read to you. The one thing we know for certain is that these forecasts will never be 100% accurate, and so the question is the degree of error. Detailed investigation of comparable companies reduces that error. Triangulating and the comparable results with the build-up results reduces that error further. The smaller the error, the less likely it is that the company will run out of cash. Also, rigorous estimates build an intimate understanding of the forces that will affect revenue and credibility with the investors. Although Firefly's projections seem optimistic, this is pretty common. Entrepreneurs always believe things will happen more quickly and with less cost than is typically the case. We expect that in future iterations of the plan, Firefly will develop stronger projections based on investor and distribution channel feedback. Nonetheless, going through these exercises gives you the ammunition to convince investors and others that your projections are reasonable. So now let's talk about the Firefly marketing plan. This is section 5.0, the marketing plan. The marketing plan has target market strategy, product strategy, pricing strategy, distribution strategy, advertising and promotion strategy, sales strategy, and that is it. So let's go through each of these next. So target market strategy for Firefly. Parents feel tremendous guilt because they feel they're spreading themselves too thin, says Dr. Joshua Sparrow of Children's Hospital in Boston. Thus, they want to optimize the time they have given with their children, especially during tough times. Caregivers are always looking for new products that will make it easier to communicate with a child. Comfort creatures and comfort kits fulfill this need. They help caregivers connect with children in distress. So in this paragraph, with the target market strategy, the positions Firefly towards the emotional purchase continuum. Emotional purchases tend to be less price sensitive and justify premium pricing. And this kind of suggestive comment about the comfort creatures and kits carries far more credibility if it's supported by evidence such as an in-industry trade article, which was mentioned. And then let's next talk about product strategy. Then nature of the business model, selling a low-tech product doesn't require much after sales service or support. And so this section doesn't need to address those issues. And we're going to state in product strategy basically the competitive advantage that the product has. So the product strategy. The comfort creatures and comfort kits integrate the comfort of a plush toy with the information needed to connect to a child. Many competing products offer tactile comfort but lack directions on how to harness comfort and foster communication. Firefly will be positioned to provide comfort to the child and expertise and information to caregivers. Pricing strategy. The retail pricing for the comfort creature is $40 per unit. Most other plush toys and dolls of the same size retail for $20 a unit, while plush toys with therapeutic features fetch $100 or more, like the Spinoza bear. Comfort creatures come in a much more competitive price, while still at a premium over basic dolls. The pricing was validated by focus groups and child care professionals. The comfort kits will retail for $65 a unit. This price was chosen by comparing the features and contents of other all-inclusive kits to those of the comfort kits. Comfort kits' superior features warrant a premium over the $35 to $40 price of the other kits. So here we saw that the price is based on competition and focus group feedback, and then once Firefly enters more distribution channels, it'll have a better gauge on what price its products will demand or can demand. An addendum summarizing focus group data and referenced comments from childcare professionally would add to the credibility here. So in the appendix, you can basically put the actual studies from the focus groups. Now, distribution strategy. Firefly will enter the market through hospitals, philanthropic organizations, schools, and direct sales to caregivers. As the company grows, it will expand to an e-commerce website, specialty toy stores, catalogs, and direct sales via trade shows, conferences, and special events. The company has established relationships with Dana-Farber Cancer Institute and Tufts Medical Center. Both organizations have tentatively agreed to provide comfort creatures and comfort kits to their patients. Firefly is working on a training seminar to be delivered to caregivers in these organizations. Partnerships with philanthropists are being developed to deliver the comfort creature and kits to children or programs in need. Philanthropists will purchase the products for these children in programs they want to support. These partnerships not only will provide the children and the caregivers with valuable tools for communication, but also will build the awareness of the Firefly brand among the people who volunteer and run these organizations and philanthropic events. Initial relationships have been established with the Pan Massachusetts Challenge, a 3-day bike ride to raise money for the Dana-Farber Institute in Boston, and Friends Way, a family grief center in Providence, Rhode Island. At the August 2002 event, Firefly donated a number of comfort creatures and comfort kits to the Pan Massachusetts Challenge, and also had a booth at the finish line where the product was sold to interested participants. We will continue to develop these channels in both Boston and New York. Firefly has conducted focus groups at several schools to test how children interact with the products. The positive results suggest that the schools will be a viable distribution channel. The Lemberg Preschool at Brandeis University, the Wimfimmer Nursery School at Vassar College, and the Lab School at the University of Chicago have expressed interest in using comfort creatures and comfort kits. After the company grows, it will expand to specialty retailers that sell educational or therapeutic toys. To learn more about these distribution channels, the company will attend conferences such as the Association for the Play Therapy Conference, as well as trade shows such as Toy Fair. Firefly has a phased entry strategy. It's important to focus during the early years, as going after all kinds of distribution channels can require significantly more resources than a startup can manage. Firefly has done a good job of networking with potential channels. However, the plan would be more convincing if they had some finalized agreements and contracts. This will be a critical milestone for the company to achieve with the next infusion of capital. The introduction of seminars so far into the plan is disconcerting. this is the first time seminars are mentioned in the business model, it may be an opportunistic or maybe an opportunity shaping based on market reaction. In either event, we would like to see it in the company product section and possibly even in the executive summary. And highlighting actual achievements adds credibility to Firefly's strategy. Now, advertising and promotion. In the first year, the focus of the advertising campaign will target professional caregivers in the following 5 areas: special events, specialty store workshops, public relations efforts, newsletter, e-letter, magazine advertising, and websites. So, Table 5.1 shows the advertising budget and timeline over the first year. It mentions the promotional tools, their timetable, and their budget. And that's a nice visual to have. And you can use the same figures in your income statement when building the financial projections later. The plan should list the exact number of things you're doing. For example, when you say newsletter, e-letter, and magazine advertising, exactly how many ads you're planning to run, how many magazines, and so on, so that you can then compute some more details. For example, promotional tools, special events once a month, 24,000, specialty toy store workshops once a month, 6,000, PR ongoing, 12,000, newsletter, e-letter, and magazine advertising, 10 ads in regional magazines November, December, February, April, June, and August at $7,000 each, so that's $70,000. 12 ads in early childhood newsletters November, December, January, April, May. That makes 4 newsletters at $300 each for $3,600. Website ongoing, $20,000 for a total of $135,600 in advertising costs for the first year. And then there's detailed section for each type of advertising that has been described here. Special events. Conferences and trade shows will serve as key launch pads for new products and will build awareness of the Firefly brand. The company will attend both industry shows such as the Toy Fair and topic-specific conferences such as the National Grief and Family Conference. At the topic-specific shows, Firefly will be a vendor, but will also work to partner with presenters who are focusing on loss, divorce, and other life difficulties. The company's management team will attend training conferences of child therapists and child life service providers. These conferences, many required by state education boards, will allow the company to connect to caregivers and better understand their needs. At the specialty workshops, Firefly plans to testing specialty store workshops at their locations in regard to difficult parenting issues. Alerting parents to the benefits of the Firefly products. At these events, Firefly will share information about best practices and demonstrate how to use company products. Firefly products will be sold at these events. And in the table, we saw the budget was $6,000, and so these workshops will have a good ROI since they're low-cost tests to investigate how to enter the specialty retail store channels more effectively to run these workshops at these stores. So that's money well spent. Now, PR with national opinion leaders. Firefly has already received significant public relations coverage, including articles in Time Magazine, Boston Business Journal, Boston Metro, Metro West Daily News, Ware Magazine, and Courier Journal from the Wall Street Journal. Firefly is continuing its PR effort by identifying opinion leaders that will lend credibility and provide marketing support for the company's products and brand. To do this, the company is targeting specific individuals whom parents, caregivers, and philanthropic organizations trust. For example, we will approach Oprah Winfrey, Good Morning America, and the Wall Street Journal, Nickelodeon, and leading child psychologists. So, showing achievements adds credibility and shows that Firefly knows how to get free PR, shows that the actual articles in the appendix support the credibility of the plan. And the budget for PR for the first year is $12,000 here. The next section, newsletter, e-letter, and magazine advertising. Caregivers rely on newsletters and magazines as sources of information about what to buy children during a difficult time. Publications that reach the target customer include the distribution lists at the child care program and institutions, parenting magazine, parents newsletters, the Association of the Education of Young Children newsletter. Caregivers will be able to sign up for Firefly's quarterly e-newsletter that highlights new product offerings and tips about particular topics. Staff at these sources would be given products for evaluation purposes. The company will also work to get the products evaluated by trusted journals such as Parents' Choice. So here we demonstrated that the Firefly has done its homework. It knows which outlets reach its core customers. The next section, the website. The website will provide access to information, expertise, and product. Caregivers will be able to order the product as well as find links to other important sites that will help the children through their difficult situations. The company will work with nationally recognized organizations to link the website to their sites and vice versa. The website will offer stories of caregivers and children, product descriptions, and connections to therapy resources. Firefly is in talks with the Doogie Center, an organization that provides support to grieving children and families, about linking its website to Firefly website. This partnership will provide links to grief centers across the US. The company also is designing a recognizable image to put on other websites to allow others' sites to link to ours easily. So every new company needs a website today and web strategy today. These are low-cost venues to supplement the overall advertising and promotion strategy, and strategic relationships can multiply the number of people you come into contact with. Next is sales strategy. In year one, Megan McDonald, Director of Marketing, along with the Sales Director, to be hired once the next round of financing is closed, and the founder, Lauren McLaughlin, will focus on establishing contacts with hospitals, philanthropic organizations, and schools. As Firefly grows, it will hire more sales personnel to manage the existing sales channels and grow distribution into the specialty store channel. Now, table 5.2 shows the headcount build out. This kind of a table is the marketing and sales headcount table. The marketing and sales headcount table is useful in that it ties directly to financial projections and facilitates reality checks as discussed above. It appears that Firefly is understaffing for the sales it's projecting. In year one, it is expecting to have one marketing director, one sales director, for a total headcount of 2, paying $45,000 and $50,000 to each of them for a total of $95,000. In year two, they're increasing marketing director's salary to 55. So marketing director's salary keeps increasing each year, 45, 55, 65, 75, and 90,000 for the first 5 years. And it's just one person. The sales director is also just one person, but their salary will increase each year, 50,000, 60,000, 65,000, 75,000, and 90,000. The sales staff, there's none in year one. There's 2 people in year 2, 15 in year 3, 25 in year 4, and 40 in year 5. And their cost is estimated at $126,000, $1.1 million, $2 million, $3.5 million. So the total headcount then is just a sum of these numbers, 2, 4, 17, 27, and 42. And the costs are also summed up. Now, 5.7 is sales forecast. So we have our sales strategy. Now we need a sales forecast. So sales forecast, Firefly Toys will experience rapid growth in the first 5 years. To facilitate this growth, the company will be entering new distribution channels each year with new product introductions. In the first year, the company projects sales of about 17,000 units of Comfort Creatures and 5,000 units of Comfort Kits. The monthly projected sales for the years 1 and 2 are shown in tables 5.3 and 5.4. Note that the price is the average weighted price based on the sales to the 3 different channels. Projections seem too aggressive, much higher than industry benchmark, as we discussed, for the number of salespeople we have. But basically now there's a table which shows months on the column, and then the next column is year one, next column is year two, and how much sales we are expecting in each month of each year, at what price, and that is summed up and multiplied with a weighted average to get the total revenue. Comfort kit, and that's done for the Comfort Creature unit sales as well as the Comfort Kits unit sales and revenue. So in summary, many people consider the marketing plan the most important part of the planning process because it communicates how you will reach the customer. As we will discuss later in the book, reaching the customer is often the most critical risk that a new venture faces. Investors will look at this part of the plan to see if you have a credible strategy. That means looking at the distribution channels, pricing, and advertising plans. The more detail you provide, the more credibility you build. Liberally use tables to highlight advertising outlets and costs and sales and marketing headcounts and salaries. Spend the time to get these details right because it means that you will have a stronger grasp on your major operating expense and your road to profitability. And so that ends the section on marketing plan. And I will see you in the next video where we will talk about the operations and development plan and its execution. Thank you for listening. I'm Aditya Mittal.